Producer JK back with J Hart. I might be a new face and voice for, I think you've done at least one Kentucky video before. I don't know if I ever have on the channel, so Kentucky fans about to get a first time experience here. As you can see, we are diving into the Kentucky stock on stakeholder. And that is because a Kentucky assistant dropped a bomb quote last night on Malachi Moreno. We will get into that. But first, $4.52. I haven't really decided my stance on Kentucky yet, which is why you can see like I haven't bought any yet. I also have not ever sold Kentucky stock, so I'm kind of in the middle here. Jay Hart, how are you feeling on the price over at Stakeholder right now?
I am not touching right now. I think this team is solid. I think this is like a top 20-ish team maybe. But they're priced like a borderline top 5 team right now to me. Like they're rivaling a Duke, a North Carolina, like schools like that, teams like that price wise that I don't think that they're better than Illinois or UConn, and they're priced better and they're more expensive than both of those schools. So I think for that price, like you're expecting a little bit of a better roster. So I wouldn't shock me if Kentucky put it together and had a really good year. But at the moment, I'm not touching at that price.
Yeah, I think I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens with Kusturica, and if something good happens there, maybe I'll buy in. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like as a North Carolina guy, I'm not high on North Carolina stock right now just because the blue blood name, man, it carries weight, which drives the price up. And then it's hard to really gauge it. Yeah, I would hold right now, but I might buy in depending on what happens with the upcoming news. Also depending on if assistant coach Mikal McLean's quote on Malachi Moreno ends up being true. He dropped a quote and essentially said last year Malachi was trying to fit in. This year he's going to stand out. There's been a lot of Malachi chatter. At one point, didn't know if he was going to stay in the draft or come back to Kentucky. He obviously decides to come back. He's expected to take a major leap for them this year. He is one of the key pieces of this Kentucky team. What do you think about the whole Malachi Moreno thing, Jay Hart?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of reliancy on a guy who averaged 8 and 6 last year, and at times was his job was up for contention with Brandon Garrison. For me, that that I think there is the NBA potential, but at the same time, I think there's this level of is he does the NBA like him because of his potential or because of his production? And I think a lot of that is potential and what he could become through these short flashes. And I think if his game remains kind of being seen through these short flashes, short spurts, like that's really dangerous thing for Kentucky. And I think that that leaves them wishing they had a little something more in the front court.
Yeah, so I completely understand cautious optimism because Brandon, it did kind of become the Brandon Garrison show at the end of the year last year. My thing with this though is like I like this roster a lot more for Malachi Moreno than Kentucky's last roster. I think you put this much shooting around him and give him more space. They were a little congested last year because I mean, like Owe was their best player, and like he can knock a 3-point shot down, but that's not what he wants to do. You got a guy like Milan in there who's, I mean, probably the best shooter in the sport this year. Um, I, I think the spacing could really, really help open up Malachi. Now, this is where like I get a little stuck because I don't know what opening up Malachi looks like. I think in my head, if he's like a if he goes up to like 14 to 15 points per game and 9 rebounds a game, he averaged a block and a half last year. I do think the defense is there. I think he gives you 15 and 9 with the really good defensive flashes. And that's probably really, really, really good, he gets taken in the first round next year season for him.
See, I think the unlocking of Malachi Moreno isn't even really so much in the scoring and the rebounding. I think that has to take a step, right? Like get to like 12 and 8. But I think the unlocking of Malachi Moreno that would truly make him this kind of unique, special big that Kentucky wants him to be is in the passing. I think it's the flashes he showed last year of the passing pops and turning an assist and a half a game into like 3 or 4 assists per game. And I think that in a Mark Pope offense that loves to use passing big men, think about how Ali Khalifa was used a couple years ago when he was with Mark Pope at BYU. I think that there's kind of that role on offense for a special big who can pass like that. That you also factor in Malachi Moreno. I think he will take a step scoring, get to like 12 points a game, will take a step rebounding, become like a very average to slightly above average rebounder. And then the defense is there, like you said. If he gets to 2 blocks a game, like you think about a big who is a average scorer, average rebounder, but a unique passer who can also defend the way he can. Think that all of a sudden NBA teams are starting to see that potential, and you feel how this very uniquely sized and skilled player, what he can do. I think it's more in that unicorn side of things where he can do the passing, he can defend like that, while also having the floor of the scoring and the rebounding.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like a real key for Kentucky this year is going to be unlocking some sets where they actually dropped another clip on social. It was like Summer Spotlight. And it was kind of a perfect example of how I think like the top level of Kentucky this year, which was Milan having the ball and Malachi being the screener sometimes when he has the ball. And the shooting of Milan just brings so much attention. He makes it easy over the top. Malachi gets a dunk out of it. Like I think like having some plays where you can operate Malachi and Milan together will unlock a lot. But I also agree with you, like Amari Williams, like he was a really good passer on that first Kentucky team for Mark Pope. And I think there's some I think there's definitely some areas where he can get up to that 3 to 4 range. Now the question is like, will Zoom Diallo be a good enough shooter to execute some of those passes and stuff like that? But I do think we might be on opposite ends here. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I think the Florida front court is so good. They probably occupy a lot of the spots, but like I think Malachi Moreno, like at worst, will be a second team all SEC center this year. And I
I
think
just
in some conferences he would be first. It just so happens he's in the same conference as Chinyalu Condon now.
I think the ceiling is first team all conference in the SEC. I think where we differ is I think the floor is a little lower than that. Like I do
Yeah.
think there's a world where he just doesn't quite take the step rebounding and scoring or even consistency wise, right? Like if it remains inconsistent and in flashes, you still kind of have like even if he does take a small step, like a 10 and 7 guy who gets you 2 assists in a game and plays good defense. Like that's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad player. It's definitely a good floor to have, but for a guy that you're relying on to be like a second option and be an NBA first, like a first round NBA draft pick, I think that would be falling short a little bit on what expectations are. And I think there's a world where that happens. I don't know if it's the most likely world. I think it probably is the most likely outcome is that he just doesn't quite live up to being like an NBA first rounder type of guy. But I do think that the potential's there for him to be a truly awesome like second option. And I think I'll leave with this. I think the best option of Kentucky is Malachi Moreno working out and then playing through Malachi Moreno and Milan Momcilovic and letting the backcourt be a complementary piece and not trying to play through the guards. I think that the best version of Kentucky is Malachi Moreno being this versatile offensive piece and Milan Momcilovic being this like three-point gunner off of that and allowing Malachi Moreno to be like an initiator, be a unique type of passing big. He can do some dribble handoff stuff with Zoom Diallo and Alex Wilkins. And I think Milan Momcilovic can play off of Malachi Moreno pretty well if he passes like that. So I think there's a lot of unique things this offense can do. And I think there's a high ceiling, but you got to play through those guys.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like the way that Kentucky is really good this year is if all of the offseason talk about like playing through Malachi and like Coach McLean said, Malachi showing out and standing out this year, that's what unlocks the Kentucky team. Like if he's not the second option, something went wrong. I agree with you there 100%. I like Malachi Moreno a lot. I think he's going to have a good year. The only other thing that I would leave with is as good as Malachi Moreno is, like the unknown of Usman and Jai kind of like sticks in the back of my head a little bit too, because he is an athletic freak. And like if he can come in and do Malachi things better than Malachi, I don't think he can, but I'm just saying the possibility of him coming in and doing the Malachi things better than Malachi is on the table.
Yeah, I just think they would. I think they're going to pair complementary. Like I think they're going to play next to each other, and Malachi Moreno is the guy with the experience in the system. He's the second year guy. He's the returner. So I think that he kind of has the first option or the first chance as a decision maker. And I think that you just see like this 3-4-5 of Momcilovic and Daye and Malachi Moreno just play really well together and look really uniquely kind of talented. And they all have their unique strengths, I think. Like Ndiaye is clearly the best athlete of the group, I think, and he's a freak athlete at his size. But I think Moreno's the best passer and the better processor. Momcilovic obviously is the three-point gunner. So I think when you also factor in this team might have a really good shot at landing Kusturica now, which I didn't think was the case like 6 hours
Yeah.
ago when I was preparing to do a Kusturica update that was written by KSR that was essentially Kentucky is a distant third behind UCLA and Michigan. I'm gonna be honest, I think Kentucky's the best option on the table now all of a sudden with the Dusty May departure because I sure hope that Kusturica has learned from Donovan Dent and Adai mistakes that they've been open and verbal about how much they hated basketball when they went to play for Mick Cronin.
Yeah. Can't wait to get into that on the next video for sure, because that's going to be interesting. But I mean, yeah, who am I kidding? Like that trio right there, like is a crazy mix of size, athleticism, shooting with Milan. Like I do think if the playmaking leap happens with Malachi and you're able to run some like big to big lob stuff with that athleticism, like it's going to be fun. I think Kentucky's roster is actually in a much better spot than anyone could have imagined even a month ago. And I like how things are trending for them. I think it'll be an exciting season for them. And yeah, I do think Malachi will stand out this year.